Absolutely. I think this is one of the most vulnerable stages of the postdoctoral fellowship, where you have come this far, but you're not sure where to go, and there are not enough resources around or whom to ask. What postdocs unfortunately do not understand that they're already ready. There are so many transferable skills, for example, handling multiple projects, program management, s- uh, presentations, seminars, interviews. These are all scientific communications. So basically what I help postdocs is really try to understand or identify the skills that they already have and how transferable are those skills in different industries, for example, pharmaceuticals, biotech, even entrepreneurship.
I think it's really great how our students and our postdocs are often prepared for a variety of career paths, whether it's academia, government, nonprofits, the private sector. And it's really nice to check in and not think that any job that you take or prepare for is the job that you're going to have for life. I often tell students and postdocs that the next job you take doesn't have to be forever. So as long as you know what you're doing now and then the next step you want to work toward, you're probably in really good shape. So I find it really helpful to sit down and brainstorm all the different parts of work that people enjoy, and then to really encourage people to do informational interviews. That's a way to pursue lots of different career paths without locking yourself into any one job in particular. Well, I try to encourage postdocs to sit down and think about what are you going to do day to day, because oftentimes we forget that the work we did as a student, as a postdoc, doesn't match what we end up doing long term. So, for example, when you're a postdoc, you might be the one in the lab leading all the experiments and the one pipetting or collecting samples or processing them. But as if, and this big if, you decide to pursue an academic career, you're probably going to be spending more of your time in meetings, writing grant proposals, writing papers, and less time in the lab. So I always encourage people to think about what skills do you already have and which do you want to use in the future?
For postdocs who are choosing a non-academic career, I think a critical set of things is to, go to the whiteboard together and sort of map out what does that career look like? What are the components of it? And so I will often with the postdoc together in my office or sometimes on Zoom, but with a whiteboard and sort of start to list things like what are the communication skills? Where would you use them? What are the project management skills? How would you use those in a government job, in a public sector job, in a nonprofit job, in whatever those non-academic, pathways are. So that's part of the process. And the second piece that I always recommend are the informational interviews. Who do you know? Who do I know? Who does our networks know? Who are sitting in those jobs now? And I will often recommend for them to reach out, have a quick chat. Sometimes postdocs need support in that, and you help them like what would be the right questions. And then many postdocs don't need really that support, and they sort of learn it and have done those kinds of things. And so a combination of seeing what the job is and sort of trying to analyze it from the job description and other kinds of things that we know about those jobs. The whiteboarding technique where you're breaking it down and doing some backward design. And then the informational interview, and then you bring those things together. So once you've done the mapping with the informational interview and your whiteboarding, you sort of focus on the priority skills that need development. I tend not to use the word lacking, but just need development, need advancement, and those sorts of things.
And when you are looking to increase or hone your skills, first you kind of have to do an assessment of whether or not you should be honing new skills or finding new skills, honing skills you already have, or trying to address gaps that you might see or others might see that might be relevant for your next position. So looking for those opportunities, again, coming back to assessing what have you done in the past, what could be relevant. You might have actually forgotten something that you've done that counts for skills. But again, it starts with that assessment, whether you have enough of those skills, and sometimes you have to get past the fact that you are comparing yourself to others. So it's really what are your skills compared to what you have done and what you need to do next, rather than comparing yourself to what others have done and what you think you need to match with them. There are many things that faculty can do to support their fellows on a non-academic path or a path that the faculty are unfamiliar with. And sometimes those faculty are being rather humble that they know much more than they may realize. So one of the first things that I've actually told faculty in supporting their fellows when they're transitioning out of academia or looking for something other than being a PI in a lab is give them permission to ask you questions, give them permission to explore, give them permission to have an ongoing supportive conversation about opportunities to, again, gain skills, but opportunities to network and connect with people. The next thing faculty can do to support their fellows is actually introduce them to their own network. Because if a faculty member may not know or be familiar with a certain path, a friend of a faculty member, the network of the faculty may actually have connections or know directly. So giving permission to have a conversation, giving permission to explore, giving permissions to go out and take workshops and gain some skills while also being still committed to the research at hand for postdoc, but also introducing their fellows to their network. That is supremely helpful.
I would suggest that faculty really encourage their postdocs to do informational interviews. There is nothing like meeting people from a variety of different career fields to find out what they're actually like. And while an individual faculty member might know people in those fields, if they themselves haven't yet experienced it, I truly believe the best advice is to encourage postdocs to do informational interviews with a variety of people. And that faculty member could help by doing mock interviews, giving them suggestions on questions to ask, pointing them to websites, because there are a bazillion of them that have examples of informational interview questions. Basically anything that encourages them to do a lot of research so that they're not, again, feeling locked into any particular career path.
What faculty may know is to be able to encourage an informational interview, right? And even if they don't know the people that they would be going to interview, encouraging it as an activity and then being open to the conversation when the postdoc comes back, right? Encouraging that interview and then telling the postdoc, hey, when you come back or when you've done the interview, come tell me about it. Tell me about your impressions. Tell me about what that environment is like so I learn. And then my next postdoc, I'll know a little bit more.